Hello everyone, good morning, evening, based on the time zone that you are joining. And today we are going to have a linger live on a very exciting topic around data. But before we begin, maybe we'll start with a very quick round of introductions. So I'm Shweta, dialing in from Gurgaon. I focused on the healthcare practice from a technology standpoint. Hanupriya, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I am Hanupriya. I am a practice director in the healthcare technology team in Everest Group, and I am based out of India and logging in from the Gurgaon office. Over to you, Devjit.
Hey, hi everyone. Good morning and good evening. I am Devjit Rath, dialing from Bangalore. I am a senior analyst with Average Group in the healthcare technology practice, where I closely track how data is being leveraged by healthcare enterprises. And very excited to be here and looking forward to have a great discussion today.
Great. So let's give our viewers a few minutes to join. But before that, for people joining in, let us know where you are joining in from in the comments. And while we talk about data today, what would be some of the key things that you would like to hear from us about? Let's give a few minutes to our audience and let's hear from Hanupriya and Devjit on how the year has been so far from them.
So, I would say, since we are on that note around how the year has been and everything, I think I would want to understand from you, Priya, given you were at HIMSS this year, you attended it in person. So, what were your key observations? What are some of the themes that you picked up from the conference?
Okay, so I think that's a great question. HIMSS as every year is always exciting. We see even more crowd this year compared to some of the previous years. I think without this being a surprise, there were three key areas on which which we saw everyone really focused on. The first one was, without any surprises, generative AI. So there was a lot of conversations just around generative AI. Is it really a reality in the world, or is it going to be another buzzword? What new use cases you are able to do? Everyone really wanted to make an impact on how generative AI is the most transformational thing, how they are leveraging it in their technology, and what are the new things they can enable with it. Agentic AI was definitely the other thing about which we did see a good number of technology players really speak about. Apart from it, the second area where I heard a lot of conversations around was patient engagement. So, again, not at all a new thing in any case, but possibly because of generative AI, etc., becoming important, all of us talking more about data related things. And also, every single organization, while focusing on cost takeout, also focusing on how can they really differentiate. Everything really eluded us to talk more about something like patient engagement. And then third, finally, again, not a surprise, but there were lots of conversations just around data. Now, I don't think that data is, in again, any way a new topic. Data is the new oil. We've all been saying for many years now. But I think what's really invigorated the interest of a lot of the enterprises is that we are now seeing more chief data officers, organizations really want to make sure that the data is more integrated, it speaks to each other, the data quality is good, etc. And hence trying to make sure that they are actually able to make sure or make the best leverage of their existing assets and provide the best experience to their customers. And that's interestingly also a good segue into what's the topic for our discussion today. So it's going to be what's really happening when it comes to data, what kind of investments are happening in data, what does it mean for enterprises, and what does it really mean for even the tech players and service providers in terms of the investments that they need to make. And on that note, maybe I'll start with a quick question for Hanupriya on where do you really think that these organizations are when it comes to their data journey? And what I really mean by that is that are they really in their nascent stages, advanced stages? What kind of data they already have, and what kind of investments can they really make as of now?
Got it. So, that's a great question. And to start with, I would say some of the organizations, or majority of them actually, are still in the nascent stages, especially when it comes to leveraging the data fully. And when I say leveraging the data fully, I mean leveraging the data for advanced analytics, for decision making tools, and all of that. Now, many organizations and many of these enterprises are still focused on the stage one, I would say. And what I mean by stage one is they're still focused on collecting the data from multiple sources, from EHRs, labs, claims, and all, and integrating that into a centralized system. While some of the larger ones have made some progress towards integration, the smaller and the mid-sized ones, I would say, more on the are still more focused on the siloed data side of things. And this is more relevant and more true, I would say, for the providers, given a lot of their data is still on prem. The cloud shift or the cloud migration is something that is not really accelerated for some of the small and mid-sized providers when I compare it to some of the pairs. And also, to add on to that, there are other areas within data, right? If we talk about analytics, then yes, basic analytics is for sure being leveraged. uh, Simple dashboards, reporting, all of that is being done. However, the advanced analytics, predictive modeling, something like real time decision support, these are still some of the use cases or some of the areas that are still on the path to development for many of these organizations. So I'll just conclude it in one line that while there are some pockets of innovation and progress that some of these healthcare organizations are focused on, they are still more so in the early to mid stages of their data journey, and obviously the evolution of data maturity is what we are expecting and seeing to continue and accelerate over the next few years.
Right. And I will also like to add on what Hanupriya just said. So most of these healthcare organizations today are still somewhere in the early to mid stages of their data journey and not quite at the evolved market. And many have made good progress in digitizing records and setting up of foundational data platforms. But when it comes to advanced data use cases like real-time analytics, predictive modeling, or AI-driven decision making, they are still figuring things out. And obviously challenges like siloed data, lack of integration across systems, limited governance, and skill gaps are also holding them back. But having said that, the momentum is still there. Healthcare enterprises are investing more in the modern platforms. They are also focusing on interoperability, and they are also starting to see value of data driven decision makings, right? So while most are not fully evolved yet, they are definitely on the path, and the pace is pacing up, picking up. Yeah.
That sounds good, Devjit. And that's also maybe I'll have a similar question for our audience also. What do you think are some of the basic challenges which enterprises are facing when it comes to investing in data related things? Would love to hear this from our audience. But before that, maybe Hanupriya, another question for you is, what do you think are the major areas within data that enterprises are really investing in as of now?
So let me actually start by bringing a view up on this, right? So if we want to talk about some of the areas that these enterprises are investing in, let's start from the left. Let's start and talk about some of the data unification and transformation capabilities that these organizations are investing in, and that's largely because the data is siloed. And maybe you can catch me here every time I say that data is siloed and fragmented in the healthcare space, but that is the truth, and that's the reality here. So a lot of investments are being done for date for getting the data unified in a single centralized system or in a single one source of truth. Now that is actually, I would say, the final and ultimate goal that all of these enterprises are aiming for. And as we keep moving right then we have data storage. After data storage, if we also look at it, then we talk about healthcare interoperability. Now, healthcare interoperability, data integration, a lot of investments are being done here, especially if you want to talk about fire standards, if you want to talk about improving data exchange across systems and solving a lot of challenges that are existing in the healthcare ecosystem right now, given the integration and interoperability is something that is very much in the nascent stages. Now, another area of focus is obviously analytics. Now, what has happened lately with AI coming, with generative AI and all of that is that all of these healthcare enterprises have actually understood that how important data is, what does it signify for them, and everybody is interested in making sense out of it, using data, leveraging it to solve the n number of use cases that can be solved. Some of the use cases can be obviously they want to and how they want to solve it for for their patients, how they are interested in having better health outcomes, streamlined workflows, identifying uh, high risk population, and all of that. And lastly, but definitely not the least, would be data governance, privacy, and security. Now, given the rise of AI in the past year, data quality has come up as one of the most important element, especially when we talk about training the models and the implementation of AI. And definitely, again, right, there's a lot of data breaches happening. Given healthcare industry is so regulated, there's a lot of compliance that needs to be done with the regulations like HIPAA. Some of them are GDPR as well. So again, data governance and privacy and security are some of the other areas that all of these enterprises are very much focused and investing in. Now, there is no, like, just to conclude, it's not like there's just one area. And again, there's a lot of overlap, and all of these areas are a lot overarching with each other for sure.
Okay. So, on the same note, let me read a question that our audience has for us. So, it says, Hi, Aditya here from Shimla, India. Hi, Aditya. With the recent AI boom, how do you see AI being used in predictive modeling alongside the traditional models which largely relied on business logics? Okay, I'll come to the second part of the question later, but maybe let me take back this one first. I think a lot of the reliance on AI actually being able to use predictive modeling relies on how reliable that data is. While within healthcare, also we've seen a lot of areas such as when it comes to fraud detection, or even to some extent in some of the administrative things or patient or member engagement, there have been a lot of predictive modeling that has happened, and AI is able to actually bring things to the next level. A lot of the times things are still remaining in the POC stages and not going actually to a extent where they are able to be adopted at scale, simply because of the reason because data sets are not really in a way that they can provide you with the best kind of predictive modeling exercises. However, from a mandate and from an adoption standpoint, there is definitely investments even happening in predictive modeling, which actually relates very well to the other question that we also have here, which is how do you view the use of alternative data? So, when it comes to the use of alternative data, definitely the healthcare payers have been leading this journey, and they've been actually adopting a lot of the data that is coming in from your social medias, wearables, as well as the other places. The intent that we've seen in the last couple of years also is to see how this data can be coupled with the actual level one data and provide those holistic insights. But I think going back to what Devjit and Hanupriya already mentioned, we are still some time away from when we can actually have all the level one data and alternative data together, providing a more integrated real time view to the audience to be able to actually leverage the best insights. Not sure if Hanupriya or Devjit want to add anything to that.
Like, I just have one pointer to add, right? If and specifically for the alternative data, or there are multiple names also to it. It can be non-clinical data, alternate data, additional data. So all of this, how it is helping and how AI is helping us reach the ultimate level of giving out better health outcomes is obviously it will help us a lot in uncovering a lot of the hidden patterns that are lying, and it will obviously enable a lot more accurate predictions, a better personalized care coming out for the patients, and eventually that will lead to better patient satisfaction and better health outcomes as well.
Fair enough. And maybe on that note, my next question is to you, Devjit. What do you feel are again some of the challenges that enterprises are really facing when they are trying to focus so much on everything that is related to data?
Okay, so there are a lot of challenges that these enterprises are facing, and I can go on and on about it. But if healthcare enterprises had to fix one major data management today, it should be addressing fragmented data through better data integration. See, right now, patient information is spread across disparate systems like EHR, labs, pharmacies, and even wearable devices. And these systems operate in silos and do not work together, right? So this fragmentation, it leads to delays in diagnosis, redundant tests, and even misdiagnosis, because healthcare providers don't have access to the complete picture of the patient's health, right? So to address this, healthcare enterprises should focus on data integration. And by data integration, I mean merging these disparate data sources into single unified data set. And this process will ensure that the healthcare providers have access to the most accurate and up-to-date patient information. And this can again significantly improve the patient care, right? So if I have to summarize this, fixing fragmented data through effective data integration will lead to better health outcomes, and it can also improve the care delivery more efficiently.
100% agreed with what you said, Devji. I mean, now again, people will say that Hanupriya is saying siloed data again or fragmented data again, but that's the reality of it.
Maybe I
And
also have, yeah, please go ahead.
no, no, I had a question for you, Priya, actually. What so lately we have received a number of inquiries in data. The spike has been significant, I would say. Now, what is it, or what are the reasons that are coming from you, or what is it that you understand is the reason behind the sudden spike in interest in data, and why are we seeing such a significant hike in the number of inquiries that we have received in the last, I would say, 6 to 7 months?
Yeah, so I actually quite agree with you that the number of inquiries that we have received around data in the last 6 to 8 months has actually increased multifold. And there are lots of reasons behind it, but primarily being the one that I guess when agentic AI, or actually, let me take a step back, when generative AI really came into business, there was a lot of FOMO that was driving in the minds of even the CIOs and CEOs in terms of what is it that we are missing out on. And everybody really wanted to leverage the best, leverage generative AI and make the most transformational changes. However, when organizations started taking the next steps when it comes to generative AI, what they realized was that their data was never really in a shape where they could actually be able to get the ROI from generative AI, because of which there was a reinvigorated interest in everything related to data. For instance, there were organizations that had more than 10 data lakes existing, and they realized that till the point that they are not integrating their data well, the quality of their data is not good, etc., they cannot really fix the data related problem, and they cannot take any advantages of all the things that are happening in the AI world. And I think that's what has actually exposed the harsh reality of healthcare world, where the data is still not in a way that we can leverage the best insights out of it. Probably, that's also, again, maybe for the next question for Devjit and Hanupriya is, where do you feel, or what do you feel, how do you feel is the clinical data actually changing the patient care that's happening? Because I know in some of the other areas we've still leveraged data well, but do you really see it getting leveraged even more when it comes to the clinical side of things?
Yeah, I will take it up. So, as of now, data is used in healthcare in a lot of powerful ways, right? And I will not be wrong if I say this, that data has become the backbone of how care is delivered today, right? So, as of now, there are four main use cases that is coming to my mind in how data is used. So the obviously the first one is better patient care, right? The second one is obviously it is going to be clinical decision making. The third one is improving operational efficiency, and the fourth one is definitely going to be population health management. And I will double click on each of this. So coming to the better patient care, doctors are now leveraging data to get a full view of patient's history. It can include medications, allergies, and test results. And even they are also leveraging real-time data from different devices, which helps them monitor patients and provide early interventions also. Second is clinical decision making. So predictive analytics also is also being used to flag patients who are at a very high risk of developing chronic conditions, and even identify patients who are at a high risk of even getting readmissions or getting any complications, right? And the next one is on the operational efficiency side. So hospitals, they are using data to optimize staffing, reducing waiting times, and also streamlining workflows. So it also helps in identifying what are the future problems, and they can also improve their resource allocation. And the fourth one is on the population management side. So these payers and providers now, they are analyzing these trends across patient populations, healthcare enterprises, and again they are also focusing on preventive care and also managing chronic diseases more effectively. So in short, data touches every corner of healthcare, starting from diagnosis to delivery to follow up, and it is also making care even faster and more personalized.
Agreed. Completely
Pretty.
agreed.
I guess there's also a question by the audience on, can blockchain really help us with some of the challenges that we laid out? May I see Hanupriya smiling, so maybe I'll pass it on to her.
Yeah, so I think block after siloed data, maybe blockchain is my another favorite word, because now the short and sweet answer to that is yes, blockchain can help a lot in healthcare, and how it can help is basically it can help in securing the data, it can help in transparent movement of the data, transparent data sharing across systems that are involved in the healthcare ecosystem. Now, what blockchain will actually do is it will improve data integrity, first of all. The second thing that blockchain can do is it can streamline patient record management. It can, again, enable secure sharing of healthcare information. And overall, if we want to talk about it, then again, unauthorized access is something that is a pain point in the healthcare space. Consent management is a key word here. Everybody's talking about consent management, and I agree, even though consent management is currently not an important element of the HIPAA regulation, it is very much an important element of the GDPR regulation for sure. So unauthorized access basically meaning basically shifting to consent management is something that will definitely be solved for by the use of blockchain.
Yes, and I also agree with what Hanupriya recently right now said about it. But one of the things is blockchain is also going to help in data security also, because at the key USP of blockchain is data security. But having said that, as of now in healthcare, the investments around blockchain is at a very nascent stage, and late like in future it is going to increase. But now if we have to say if the focus on blockchain in healthcare is what is the focus of blockchain in healthcare, then it is very low right now. But is it going to get traction? The answer is obviously yes.
Cool. I think we have another question, uh, which is around fire adoption, if that is a must in the healthcare space. Now, absolutely and definitely, fire adoption is crucial to address the data interoperability and data integration issues in healthcare. How it helps is it basically standardizes data formats, resources, and nomenclature, and eventually enabling the seamless data exchange across pairs, across providers, and the multiple systems that are involved. Now, again, without the widespread of fire adoption, data management challenges do persist and will continue to persist, which will eventually hinder the efficient information sharing, the care coordination, better health outcomes, and all of those good use cases and good things that we want to achieve eventually.
That's right. And I think, that also forces us to think that if we really had the best interoperability in healthcare, would we even have so many of these challenges in the ecosystem that we kind of see now? Or if you put it really in the other way, maybe the reason that we really need a lot of the additional investments is that we are not able to have the real interoperability that we are striving for. Would love to hear, Hanupriya, your thoughts also on that.
Completely agreed. I completely agree with what you just said.
Great. So I think moving ahead with, I also would want to love to hear your thoughts on what do you think buyers are really looking for when they are choosing or when they're outsourcing their data related needs. I think it would be good to get perspectives or what are some of the top levers or top investment themes that they have in their mind when they're looking for this outsourcing.
Okay, so I will take it up. So we recently did a report on data management. So where we had interacted with a lot of data platform providers and even healthcare enterprises as well. So when it comes to parameters that buyers are looking for when choosing a healthcare data solution, it really boils down to three main things. So the first one is obviously technical expertise. The second one is ease of implementation, and the third one is security and compliance, and I will break it down in simple terms. So, when it comes to technology expertise, buyers basically want platforms that are flexible and can grow with their needs. So, they are looking at how well the platform can be customized. So, customization is one of the key parameters when choosing any data solution, and whether it integrates smoothly with other systems. So as of now, this healthcare enterprises are using a lot of different systems, right? They have a CRM platform, they have a EHR platform, they have ERP platform. So basically they see if it can integrate with all these systems or not, and if the data management solution has analytics on top of it, that is also one of the important parameters for them, and how much data can it handle. So these are the key things when they are looking for technical expertise. And when it comes to implementation and operational factors, so speed and support really matters a lot to them. So buyers care about how quickly they can get up and running, how much support they are getting during the implementation phase, and whether the users of the platform they get good training and ongoing support or not. And the third thing is on the security and compliance, and buyers want to be sure that the platform meets the data interoperability standard, it keeps the patient data safe and secure, and it follows all the regulatory mandates, especially HIPAA. So, in short, buyers want a data management solution that is powerful, easy to get started with, and is completely secure.
Yeah, and I would really double click on the security aspect that you touched upon, Devji, because one of the major inhibitions that organizations have in almost every other sector is around the security, reliability, and the hallucination or the biases that some of the data can create. And I think it becomes really more important when it comes to an industry such as healthcare. It's not only important to make sure that the data remains regulated, secure, and we are not really hampering with the privacy related regulations. So I will say that that's really something that becomes very important, even in fact, a lot more important in the healthcare construct. I also see another great question there around if you're aware of the emergence of some of the major healthcare LLMs in the US with great adoption. So there are definitely healthcare specific LLMs that we've seen. For example, the Microsoft and the Epic partnership, where there are tools going into the electronic health records of Epic, or in fact, Google itself is trying to create more LLMs that can specifically help in clinical reasoning. And I guess that's where we see, particularly Google focused a lot when it comes to clinical decision making. They are trying to create some really powerful healthcare LLMs. Even with some of the other organizations, we are seeing some LLMs that are created to help in messaging, etc. But I think the second part of your question is more interesting, Varun, where you really talk about high adoption happening. And I think that's where none of these are really quite there. When it comes to higher adoption, none of the healthcare LLMs that we've seen so far really have a very high adoption. We might, but we would definitely keep a watch out on that, as the next few years might be actually creating those healthcare specific LLMs that could really scale up in adoptions and maybe solve for some of the greatest challenges around clinical decision making, or helping in taking notes and reducing the admin related costs as well as the admin related burnout that's happening currently. Okay. So, Devjit, I think you already touched upon some of the parameters that buyers are looking for when it comes to outsourcing their data needs. We actually see quite a lot of service players also coming up with a lot of data solutions, and the tech world is also busy with lots of players who are either focusing on or who are focusing on different parts of the value chain. It could be data interoperability, data lakes, data warehouses, etc. So, would love to understand how the different service providers as well as the tech players are kind of jointly coming up in the ecosystem, and which part of the jigsaw puzzle is each one of them trying to solve for, and are they really competing with each other, working together, etc.
Let me
I
take
see a
take
head nod by HP, so maybe I'll invite her to answer this question.
Sure, let me take this one up. So when we talk about the supply ecosystem in the data space specifically, if we talk about, let's say, service providers, now we are seeing a lot of these service providers come up with something called an HDAP. Basically, that means healthcare data analytics platforms. Now, are these actually platforms which is something similar to what the big techs or the hyperscalers have built in? To be honest, the short and sweet answer is not really. Now, what actually is happening here is all of these service providers who have come up with these edge tabs, what they're actually doing is they're partnering with the likes of big techs, the hyperscalers that are out there, and the data layer or the initial data infrastructure that is built up by these big there's a lot of involvement of service providers that is coming in, but that is coming in on top of the data layer that is on top of the data layer that is built up by a Salesforce, by a Databricks, AWS, and all of these. So as a service provider, what is it that I am doing here is I am coming in, I am leveraging the data that is available with you. Now, how I'm leveraging is I'm coming in to create specific use cases, specific accelerators that will target a specific problem or a targeted problem that is there in the healthcare space. For example, if I'm an HDAP, what I will do is maybe, let's say, if I'm partnering with the like of a Snowflake or a Databricks and all the other big techs that are out there, is I will come in to create that specific use case. Now, what that use case can be, it can be, for example, it can be a PHM, which is population health management. There can be something around patient engagement, care management, and multiple other areas in the healthcare space. So, again, to answer this and to just sum it up, the ecosystem right now in the data management space is one, we have the hyperscalers and big techs who are working hardly and working upon creating the data layers, making sure the data is stored correctly. Then we do have some of the niche health tech or niche healthcare data management platforms. Now, what they are doing is data unification, largely, is what I've seen is a USP for a lot of these. They are building out APIs so that they can unify data from multiple sources. And then we do have service providers who are building targeted accelerators and use cases on top of the data layers that exist in the market right now.
Great. So I
And
think it kind of seems like that there are a lot of different players who are kind of coming together and working as an ecosystem to be able to serve these data needs. So maybe the way I look at it is that when it comes to the data world or solving for the data needs of an enterprises, it's actually a lot of the individual blocks that need to fit together, which maybe the service partners, tech players together are solving for, to be actually able to help these enterprises realize their needs.
100%.
Okay. So I also see a question from what are the major impediments to adopting the latest technology in the healthcare industry. I'm not sure if it means by latest technology, latest AI, or latest data. But if I generally look at this question purely from the perspective of that, what are generally one of the latest, some of the major impediments which inhibit enterprises in adopting the latest technology? The top few that come to my mind are definitely around cybersecurity, given in healthcare, it remains as one of the biggest problems to solve for, especially since some of the advancements in some of the cyber attacks that we saw in the last few years. Data is definitely going to be some of the other, because a lot of the work that happens in AI today, it's not really able to get to the final milestone given some of the inhibitions that we see in this area. And then some of the others would be around the organizations not adopting the latest tech, on some of them really adopting some of the legacy platforms, because of which, again, getting data interoperability or even solving for cybersecurity kind of becomes an issue. Great. So I think lots of great points mentioned here. Possibly one last question that I would have for both Hanupriya and Devjit would be, how do you think is the data governance space really evolving with a lot of next generation tech that is kind of coming into the picture?
So let me start on this. When we talk about data governance right now and the evolvement of that we are seeing is, I would say, in one phrase, data governance is shifting left. Now, what I mean by that is the implementation of data governance protocols is moving from the storage side of things to something at the source level. When I say the source level, it's the initial data unification and the data transformation segment within the space that we are talking about. Now, when we also talk about the evolvement of this space and some of the technologies being leveraged here, then definitely AI is one that we are expecting, and blockchain is actually the technology that we are expecting a huge role in the data governance space. And given we just had a question, we have covered that in detail. Now, other areas or other technologies that we are seeing being leveraged in the data governance space is AI and ML for sure. How they will help is it's largely the data quality side of things that they will help in. Now, when it comes to data quality, I mean, AI and machine learning can help with automating data validation, with the cleaning processes, and eventually, basically, which means ensuring that we have higher quality and accurate data available so that we can go ahead and uh, use it for the multiple use cases that we are interested in. And another area specifically for data governance and more so on the privacy side of things is what we are seeing, encryption tools gaining some traction. And now I agree, it is still a little on the nascent side of things, more on the proof of concept, maybe transitioning to proof of value in the coming years. But encryption tools is something that we are seeing have high use case and high use and leverage in the data governance space. And how again it will help is it will help in automatically identifying the data, and securing the sensitive patient data that we have, and eventually helping us with ensuring the privacy while also allowing some of the authorized access. That is something that has to be done.
And I also completely agree with what Hanupriya just mentioned. And the data governance space is evolving very quickly, especially as the next generation technologies like AI, machine learning, and generative AI, they are becoming more integrated into the healthcare system. So now with next generation technology, especially generative AI, there is a growing emphasis on ethical data use. And here is where healthcare organization they need to prove that their data is accurate, their data is traceable, and it is also used very fairly. So right now their primary focus is also on data lineage, consent management, and even on the bias detection and algorithms.
Sounds good. I think that was the last question from you, Priya. So before we close, anything from you or should I just go ahead and keep talking about data for rest of the day?
Yeah, so I think some great insights. And I think the way I would like to close it is that organizations are kind of still there in the initial journey of their data adoption. And while data quality, reliability, integration, interoperability are some of the challenges, the good news is that we've still seen some good adoption and headway or uh, investments happen in the last 6 to 8 months, which has also meant that the AI that they are investing is finally started to yield more results for everyone. And as we see, the space is still fragmented with a lot of the service partners as well as tech players providing different solutions, lots of different healthcare LLMs coming up. We would be in the watch out to see what the next 6 8 months kind of look like for some of these things. And as we close the session, I would request the audience to click on on the link in the chat so as to request for a complimentary abstract for one of our recently published reports on healthcare's digital backbone. That's a deep dive into data management platforms. Thanks everyone for making it a very interactive session. We would love to hear more from you in some of our upcoming LinkedIn lives. So goodbye everyone till the time we see you next.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.